You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today, just like any other day, we have another special guest. Today, we have the one and only Miss Genesis Amaris Kemp. She is a visionary life coach, a motivational speaker, and also an amazing author. And we're going to learn all about her and what she does, not just for her clients, but she also has a podcast that we'll dive into. But before we do that, I want to welcome you, Genesis, to the show. Say, how you doing?
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Shemaya. I'm so looking forward to talking with you today and just really diving into the subject matter.
Not only are you a mindset hacker, I mean, I know that says it on your bio, but I had to steal it because that was pretty cool. But you help empower people to not just find their purpose, but you specialize in helping them speak up for themselves, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into what you do.
Sure. So I'm going to start with my former professional background. So I spent 15 years as a whole in corporate America. 12 of those years were primarily spent in the oil and gas and energy sector, where I quickly learned in order to get ahead, I needed to really think outside of the box and rise above those limitations and barriers, especially being a melanated person, or like I like to say, a chocolate drop in a white man's world, in the male-dominated field. And then after being laid off in February of last year and losing my dad in November of 2020, I quickly learned that I had to realize what type of gifts and talents do I have, and how could I maximize it to really show up and ignite the purpose that God has placed inside of me. So I started doing that via visionary life coaching, and then really just starting my own podcast. And the podcast was initially started out of grief because I wanted to showcase that, we all grieve differently, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a job, a pet, or maybe even relationships. Everyone goes through grief a little bit differently, but how you react to certain situations is what's going to set you up for success. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. And I'm sure you're going to dive more into it further on in the conversation.
Let's talk about your book, because that's when I saw it, I was like, oh man, this is interesting, and not in a bad way, in a great way. Title of your book, the best-selling book that you author, is Chocolate Drop in Corporate America, From Pit to Palace. Give us a little bit more details about this book and what inspired it to come.
So I'm going to unpack the name here. So Chocolate Drop in Corporate America. It's because I came up with that because I was like, oh, people always say, oh, she's Black or she's African American, or some people are like, what are you, based on my physical features? And I was like, you know what? Everybody likes chocolate, whether it's white chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and it comes in all variations, whether sweet, semi-sweet, dark or bitter, right? And it's irresistible. And I was like, okay, I can be irresistible to some people, depending if they're part of my tribe or if they're just meeting me for the first time. And then the subtitle, From the Pit to the Palace, is significant that sometimes you have to go through those dark seasons in your life, which are AKA the tests or the growing pains, those struggles and those ugly moments, in order to really appreciate the palace. The palace could be your level of success, not somebody else's. The palace could be your sanctuary where you have peace and you have really become who you want to be and not what the world wants you to be. So that's unpacking the title there. And then I'm going to do you one better. And I'm actually going to read the back of the book. And I start off with asking two powerful questions, and feel free to answer them if you would like. So what challenges in the workplace have you encountered that left you feeling as if you were mistreated? That's the first one. Have others who were unqualified seemingly passed you by in the ranks? That's the second one. In our daily lives, we are all faced with various trials, whether in the workforce or at home. However, when treated unfairly, it takes courage to stand and fight for what's right. No matter your race, nationality, ethnicity, or background, you can rise to be the game changer. When you use the power of your voice, you shake the atmosphere and cause a domino effect, because others will choose to either follow suit or stand in solidarity. On the pages of Chocolate Drop in Corporate America, Genesis has chosen to speak up for not only minorities, but also anyone who has been slighted on the job in any way. From her personal testimony, you will learn how speaking up brought awareness so that long lasting change could be made. We do not win by remaining silent, overlooking injustice, and continuing to practice poor judgment. We win by standing together, engaging in those difficult conversations, and helping one another. Let's work together to create change for future generations to come.
I mean, I like the two questions. The first one, what challenges that you have faced in your workplace that makes you feel or has made you feel that you were mistreated? And the second one that was asked, have others who were unqualified seemingly pass you by in the ranks? That's interesting because that also could be personal life too. It can be outside the office. It can be just the fact that your mindset, you like, what I'm trying to get at is like a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So if you don't speak up, then most people just kind of assume that you're okay, or just assume, oh, it's no biggie. Like they don't care, or they haven't showed that it's an issue. So, let's just go as normal. But I like those two questions because it kind of sets you right where you are. So you can't, just kind of stretch it, if you will. You have to actually know exactly where you are on the map. And then from there, you can kind of know where you want to go next. Because I think that's a lot of the problems with us as individuals. For us to actually reach our goals, we have to be honest, where are we on the map? Because if you know where you are on the map, then you know a starting point to actually go to the next step, go to the next area of your life, personally or professionally, that is better than your current circumstances.
Absolutely. And I like how you address both parts of the questions because I wanted the audience to know that it doesn't matter where you are in your life because that's just a season and it's just a chapter. You're going to eventually get out of that season and chapter, but you have to really start by looking within yourself and learning about who you are. And once you know who you are, you have clarity and focus on where you want to go. And then also to let people know, don't just, be so willing to accept what other people tell you, whether it's those limitations or barriers that they place on you, because you weren't here to just be a yes man or a yes woman. You were here to create a difference, and you could create a difference once you really solidify what your purpose is for being here on earth, because each one of us has something unique to offer.
Once again, you listen to I Am Refocused Radio. We're talking to the one and only Genesis, Amaris Kemp. So when it comes to passion and purpose, how much important is it for you when you're talking to a listener to understand the difference between passion and purpose? Because you can't have one without the other.
Yes, absolutely. So whenever I talk to someone about passion, first of all, I like them to create a list of all the things that they are passionate about. That's something that you could do without even getting paid for, something that you truly enjoy, and it just brings you fulfillment. It warms your heart and it makes you smile, it makes you light up, and etc. And then whenever you think about purpose, purpose is really rooted in who you are, your DNA, and why you show up in the world each and every day. It also is tied to your legacy, because what do you want people to say about you when you're no longer here? What type of foundation are you trying to lay? And are you really trying to create a pathway for future generations to come, create that generational wealth to be passed down to your family, and really remain steadfast? And for anyone who is spiritual or religious, each one knows that God has created you for such a time as this, and what he created for there's only one that can accomplish it, which is you, because each one of us was given our own DNA. Our fingerprints are different because we're not meant to be somebody else. So why are we assuming the responsibilities and identity of social media influencers, celebrities, and etc.? Why can't we remain true and authentic to ourselves and realize that we were given and created as a masterpiece to accomplish something here on the world that only we can? Because certain things have been placed inside of us, but it's not just for us to keep, it's for us to help illuminate dark seasons, for us to share the knowledge with other people to make their world a bigger and brighter place, and to really just uplift one another whenever we connect with each other. So I hope that helps you differentiate my version and depiction of passion versus purpose. And can your passion spill over into your purpose? I would say yes, it can. But I definitely do think that there is a clear line between the two.
What inspired you to say, you know what? There's a lot of people out there who need help navigating, right? Not just in their life, but in their professional world. What inspires you to say, you know what? I want to coach someone, help somebody out who may have the right direction as far as like they're passionate with this and that, but they are not necessarily hitting the goals that they can have the, obvious potential to do so.
Well, first of all, I think about where I was and how there were different mentors, whether they were formal or informal mentors that came along side me and helped me navigate certain things in my life, professionally with my career, as well as personally. I also think about, some of my family members who I look up to, like my older brothers, and they gave me wisdom because they've already been where I am. They've superseded it. And I do believe that wisdom and knowledge is power. So I'm like, if somebody did that for me, why can't I help do it for other people? And especially me being young, or some people say, oh, I'm an old soul, even though I'm a millennial, I'm 30. I feel like I have definitely grown a lot faster in life because I had to mature based on the circumstances that I was in, but it afforded me the ability to really hang out with people who are seasoned, meaning they're older than me. But I've also had the ability to, have a soft spot for the younger generation because they are our future, and to be able to link arms and close those gaps generations wise, then it really influences me to just really embrace being a visionary, but also helping coach. Because if I could help somebody reach their ultimate destination faster and, save time making mistakes and etc., why not?
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio. We are talking to the one and only Genesis Amaris Kemp. And people in the world that we live in today, I'm sure every time period, right, people have been forced to make hard decisions to adapt to certain circumstances. But past 2 years, it's been interesting to say the least. And with all the things that has happened and all the distractions that have been popping up, how important is it for someone to really pinpoint what is they want to do next? As far as, I like what you said earlier about being around seasoned people because they've been through something and they can help you navigate difficult times, especially if they are a testimony of surviving those difficult times. How important is it for them to pinpoint exactly, the steps that they need to take in order for them to not just survive difficult times, but also thrive?
I think it's extremely important to pinpoint those steps because if you don't have any clarity or focus, one of the things that always reminds me and helps keep me grounded is people perish for a lack of knowledge. And I also like to add a lack of direction, because if you don't know who you are and where you're going, you're easily going to be fooled by the counterfeit or the serpents that come along. And you're going to be taken off your path because you're so easily swayed to jump on the bandwagon and do things that aren't adding value to you. And you're not adding value to the situation. And before you know it, time is passing by and you can never get that time back. So by remaining focused and having that clarity, having that discernment and intuition, and really pinpointing like where you are currently in life, is it where you want to be? If it's not where you want to be, what steps do you need to take to reposition and recoordinate your GPS in order to reach that final destination? Then you're not going to be happy. You're going to have, feelings of remorse, guilt, and whatever other emotions creep up in there because you have lost sight of where you're going. You lost sight of your pathway, and you also lose a bit of you whenever you aren't really whole and complete, if that makes sense.
That definitely makes sense. And the fact that we're talking about purpose versus passion, everything lines up with stories. Stories is what people identify with, is they can relate to. And your personal story, where you started and how it led you to where you are today, was an example of just you as an individual of struggles that propelled you into making the decisions that you have made that position you to be successful today.
So I'll give 3 different bits and pieces of my story. So over 10 years ago, back in high school, I was actually a victim of bullying. And that led me to a dark season of my life where I was depressed. I had doubts about who God was. I had different questions or whatnot. And then there was also 9 consecutive days where I didn't even go to school. I just felt like I couldn't even get out of bed. Like I felt like I wasn't myself. Like I was just going through the emotions. But what really helped me crawl out of that dark hole in season was just listening to the words of my parents and how they were pouring into me scriptures, how they were telling me that I was loved. They told me that, God created me for a reason. And even though they could see that I was hurting, they still embraced me with that motherly and fatherly love. And then I had a few friends that will call and check on me. And that really helped me because I don't know why I felt the need to just try to fit in and just go with the crowd and peer pressure, because I had to ask myself, why am I allowing these people to control and dictate how I feel? Because they're not providing food on the table for me. They're not giving me any clothes on my back or whatnot, but my parents are. And I had to really go through that dark season in order to appreciate the light at the end of the tunnel, because now I'm able to connect with other people who have been victims of bullying and share my story and really talk about, that hard and dark season and just give them hope so they could, continue on with their journey and they won't take their life via suicide or do anything that's detrimental. So that's one story. Another story is working in a male dominated field and being in oil and gas for 12 years where you don't really see a lot of people that look like you. And it's kind of hard to navigate your career, especially without being labeled as aggressive or the angry Black woman, and dealing with systemic racism, pay disparities, the lack thereof of diversity, equity, inclusion, or even feeling like you belong. It can be mentally and emotionally taxing and extremely draining. But then I had to realize, okay, if I want to, you know, move forward in this area, I have to really think outside of the box. Or like people say in the corporate world, you got to play the game or get in where you fit in. But I was like, I'm not going to compromise any of my morals and values to get ahead. But what can I do to really show that I'm a team player? I could do step out activities, meaning I could get my base job done while taking on extracurricular assignments at work, whether it's partnering with some of the nonprofits that the company supports, whether it's volunteering internally for other job opportunities where I could help out other team members or et cetera. Or if it's even, going to different team buildings that would give me the opportunity to just not only be seen on my team, but be seen outside of my department where other people get to know who I am. So that was one way where I helped take ownership of my career and navigate the corporate setting, because I don't want to just be seen, but I want to be heard as well.
Once again, true honor talking to Genesis Amaris Kemp here on Amaris Focus Radio. And you said some things, man. You was rapping on that one. You had some good points on what you just said moments ago. I like what you said recently, just moments ago, take ownership. Because taking ownership is like this. No one else is going to do it. So you might as well step up to the plate and take ownership of your life, take ownership of your next moves, take ownership of understanding, comprehending like where you are. It takes honesty to find out where you are, so that way you can figure out where you can go next. And the last thing I want to point out, what you said moments ago, was that you had to go through a dark season in order to appreciate the light at the end of the tunnel. I think that's powerful, because when things happen, you have a couple of choices. You either give up or you press forward. And I think the odds are in your favor if you press forward. And that takes a part of ownership and saying, okay, what do I need to do right now so that I can press forward, so I can move beyond this situation? Because this situation, right, is temporary, but it's based on what I decide to do with my actions right now in the present. Because whatever you decide to do right now and whatever you actually do, that's you leaving your mark on history. I know I'll rap a little bit, but touch on that, because I just feel like that is so important for whoever listens to this, that it's only over if you quit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing I would add on there, Shamaya, is that always start with the end in mind. So a hard question that I like to ask my clients is, if you were led to write your obituary today as an exercise, what would you want your obituary to read? Which means that you are already setting yourself up for success because you're going to work on the things that you want to surely accomplish. So whenever your time comes, other people could say this about you, because these are all the things that you have done to make the world a better place. These are all the things that you've done to fulfill your assignment while here on earth, to lay a foundation, to pave a way for future generations, and to really solidify and create that legacy. So start with that, the end in mind, and work backwards. Another thing that I would say to that point is, what is driving me? Because there's various things that could drive us in life, whether it's monetary, whether it's physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And how can I categorize each one of those so I can make sure I keep myself straight and narrow? Because you definitely have to have a balance with life. And that's why they tell you to make sure mind, body, and soul are in alignment. Because if something is out of whack, you're not going to be balanced. And the one analogy that I'll use to solidify this example is, think about it. When you go get your car an oil change, right? Rock with me here. So one of the things that they recommend after you get your oil change is to rotate and balance your tires. Why do they tell you to rotate and balance your tires? Because they want to make sure that your tire thread is not being pulled too far on the left or too far on the right. And they want to make sure that your car drives optimally in a straight line. So if you don't rotate and balance your tires, one, your tire threads are going to eat up so much quicker. You're going to have to buy more tires frequently. Your cars, whenever you're driving your car, it's either going to pull too far over to the left or too far over to the right. So you're not going to be remaining in the middle of the line because your car doesn't have that proper balance. And then just like you take time to service your vehicle so your vehicle could get you from point A to point B, why don't you take time to service your life? And do that holistically? Mind, what type of foods are you feeding your mind? How are you nourishing yourself? Are you doing things that is edifying you? Are you taking in content that is sharpening your mindset, making you smarter? Are you listening to things that's feeding your soul? Are they positive? Are they negative? Etc. Body, what's your fitness like? What's your nutrition like? How are you maintaining your temple so you could have that optimal longevity? And soul, how are you edifying your soul? Are you cleansing your soul? Are you listening to things that are polluting you and creating a toxic environment? Or are you listening to things that's really edifying you and causing you to stretch beyond your comfort zone, but enabling you to go beyond the uncharted waters, enabling you to rise up to be that man or woman that you were created to be, enabling you to be a good steward here in life, to be a servant leader, give more than you receive, help somebody, give somebody a smile, donate, go volunteer, do something that makes you feel good, but is also helping somebody else in return.
Like they say, time always flies by when you're having too much fun. First of all, everything you say is amazing, because I think whoever listening to this, just like me, you don't want to listen to this over and over again so you can take some more notes. And I like everything you're saying because it speaks volumes. It allows people to understand if you really want to strategize yourself and where you want to be in life, then you have to actually do it. You can't just think happy thoughts and hope that everything falls in place. We said it earlier in the interview, purpose versus passion. I like to say without purpose, passion is just dangerous. You need something that can help guide you and help make sure that you're doing what is necessary for you to reach your goal versus just being aimlessly trying to do something because you like it. And wrapping this up, first of all, tell people about a quick summary of your podcast, but also tell the audience your last thoughts and what we discussed today.
So my last thoughts for this segment is to really ignite who you want to be. Show up in the world authentically. Make sure that you are really tapping into your full self. Don't live below your means and really rise above those limitations and break down barriers, because you have a light inside of you, and that light is contagious, and it can help you spread fire and really help somebody else on their journey if you really look within and you become who you were created to be. And I also want to encourage you, stop trying to live in the shadows of other people when you were destined for greatness. And then to summarize my podcast, once again, the name is Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp, because I truly believe we all have gems to give into the world. The core pillars are to educate, inspire, and motivate, all while connecting and bridging the gap for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because it takes all of us coming together to make this world a better place. And I'll leave you with a quote by Babe Ruth. Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
Once again, true honor talking to the one and only Genesis Amaris Kemp. If you're inspired by this, make sure you share this episode with all your friends and family, especially someone that you believe is trying to not just find a purpose, but to also tame their passion and use it for something that is going to drive them in the right direction in life. So once again, I want to say thank you to you, Genesis, taking time out of your super busy schedule, talking to I Am Refocused Radio.
I Am Refocused Radio is brought to you by Foo 4 Star and Holy Crab. Foo 4 Star is a family-owned Asian restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. We have been a local favorite for Asian cuisine for over 10 years. With nothing but full smiles and fast service, you'll be leaving satisfied. Come on in for some authentic Vietnamese food. Holy Crab is one-of-a-kind Cajun Creole-style seafood restaurant located in Universal City, Texas. We offer traditional seafood items as well as chicken and steak. We also offer seafood boils. Come give us a try. You won't be disappointed. You can find these two eateries in Universal City, Texas at 2921 Pat Booker Road.